Peter, first of all, congratulations on getting a job. I'm really, really pleased for you, having known you for all these years.
Thanks, Gary.
For our listeners, can you give us an idea of what your strategy was to find a job and what the current challenges were that you've been facing or you faced whilst looking for a job?
Yeah, so thanks, Gaz, and thanks for your help on this as well. Originally, my background is I'm a salesman, and I've used and developed a sales methodology over many, many years. And my strategy was to apply my methodology, my sales methodology, to me as the product. So I was a product, I was selling myself to the market, and the strategy was to use the same principles and methodology. I was actually made redundant at the end of April in 2020, so just a month into the first lockdown. And I was concerned in terms of challenges. I was concerned that there were a lot of companies that were basically not going to be hiring, or that were delaying decisions on their hiring. I was also concerned that at my age, there would be fewer opportunities. I was additionally concerned that I'd be doing this all remotely on Zoom or on Microsoft Teams or GoToMeeting. I wouldn't be able to meet people face to face, because historically in my sales life, I've done really good on the face-to-face meetings. So I felt there were a lot of challenges right at the start when I was made redundant.
Right, and so what strategy did you adopt? Because that sounds pretty scary, to be brutally honest.
So the first thing I did was in my strategy. Within the strategy, the first thing is do your homework, do your prep. So you do your research, and the first thing I did was I took a couple of weeks off to actually think about what did I need and what did I need to provide to make myself more visible or desirable to the potential market out there. I also looked at the actual markets, so the types of job that were available and the types of companies. So obviously I was looking for a sales job or a sales director job, but I was actually looking for certain types of companies and trying to avoid other types of companies. So for example, leisure and entertainment, even though I'd sold a lot into the aviation sector, leisure and entertainment wasn't the sector to go for with the COVID virus lockdown.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research, and having done that research, I realized that there were things that I could do better. Having been working pretty much solidly for best part of 40 years, I was honest enough to be able to realize that I needed help to improve on certain things. One example, of course, was my LinkedIn profile and the ability for recruiters or people on LinkedIn to actually notice me. So that's one of my bits of research identified that I needed to get help. And as you know, I used you and asked you to help.
And what did you learn through that process? What did you learn through the looking for a job in the, if you like, in the current market and the current age, compared to what you did prior to this?
So what I learned, because I went for, in the end, I had a lot of interviews. So having done my research and then built my pipeline, because that's the next thing, so targeting my companies and building my pipeline, what I learned was that the being able to get noticed and being able to be identified or picked out is extremely important. I also learned that a lot of the companies were not 100% sure themselves of exactly what they were looking for. If you looked at the job descriptions that you would get from LinkedIn, very much it was like a very long shopping list, wish list. There's no way that anybody could do all of those bits. So what I learned was you didn't have to actually not apply because there was so much that was there. You could still apply if probably 2/3, 3/4 of it was good and you had the skills.
And how did COVID affect all this, would you say? What compared to anything you've ever been through before when looking for a job? Because you are, with all due respect, Peter, you're well known in the industry. You never found it a challenge getting a job. You know, you can see you work for some amazing organisations. How did this differ compared to anything you've ever done before?
So the longest I've ever been unemployed before this was 4 days, which was basically a long weekend. I ended up being unemployed nearly for 8 months this time. And absolutely undoubtedly, COVID caused delays. The fact that you couldn't have face-to-face meetings, the fact that a lot of people, a lot of the companies I was working for, even the company I've now got a job at, you know, nobody's working in the office. It's all working from home.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, I mean, if you look at the timing, I was made redundant at the end of April. The first lockdown unlocked in June. Then, of course, there was summer holidays, people wanting to do things with the kids. And then we had the second lockdown. And of course, we're now in lockdown 3.0. The fact is, it's definitely delayed things. So don't be discouraged by the fact that there's nothing I can do or you can do or anybody else can do about this lockdown. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you can't do anything about it. Just keep pushing on. But it did delay things. And
how did you work with a career coach? How did that, how do we engage? And if you listen, if for our listeners out there, how does that work?
So the first thing is, you as my career coach had a system or a program that we followed. So we started off with image, we then went on with interview skills, we actually did some filming like now to actually be able to say, you know, how do you answer directly. We worked on the sort of typical questions that we would be asked, and then we practiced the answers so that we could give a better response, or I could give a better response. What happened and progressed as it went on was I used you more for a little bit like being a sales director. Basically, I was building up a pipeline of job opportunities. And on a weekly basis, I would have a chat with you. We'd go through where I was, what I've managed to do, and how I've progressed some. Any new ones that had come in, any ones that had actually dropped out, so the jobs I wasn't going to get the job or whatever, or I found out I didn't want the job. So it was very much like working, as I say, I was the product, you were my sales manager, and I was giving you weekly pipeline updates. What was particularly good, though, was in certain key jobs. So when you're out there and you identify new opportunities, some of them you're going to want more than others. Some of them you just have a look at the job spec and you just think it's the right company, the right fit. It's a job I'd like to have. So for those ones, you obviously try and work a little bit harder. And what I did was I worked with you, for example, when we were asked at second or third interview stage, or I was asked to do a presentation, I would run the presentation by you before I actually did it. If there were particular areas, we would discuss strategy. So when you're going for a senior sales job, you are interviewed by various different people at different times. So the strategy for the sales director is the different one for the strategy for ops and management, ops and product management, for example, or from marketing. Ultimately, you've always got the MD one. So what you did and where you helped me is we would look at the background of the person that was interviewing me so that I would then be able to be better prepared for whatever questions they were going to ask me in the live interview. So that's how we work together.
And just last couple of questions. The first one's about LinkedIn. What did you learn about the power of LinkedIn and how you used it? From someone who obviously you probably had a LinkedIn profile before, now you actually use it as a tool. What did you learn about actually LinkedIn? And if you could explain to our viewers what you learned, that would be great.
Okay. So the first thing about LinkedIn is it's basically, so that there's, if I divide that into two things, the first thing is about how my LinkedIn homepage and how I used it to, or how you and I helped to create it to make it work. It's all about visibility. It wasn't enough just to have all the different companies I'd worked for and what those companies did. That was a waste of time. You could just click on the logo of the company and see what the company does.
Yeah.
It was actually changing it so that what I was doing, what numbers I'd done, what I'd delivered, what key achievements I'd done, you know, the President's or CEO Circle Club, top sales winners clubs, things like that. It was making it more sexy in the terms of content. The second thing was not necessarily putting everything in it, but making sure that you put in the key things. And things like that were, for example, getting recommendations. Previously, I hadn't bothered with recommendations because I know so many people in the market anyway, and they know me. But actually getting recommendations meant that recruiters, young recruiters that I had never met before or heard of, could actually say, oh, he's got X number of recommendations. The third thing was actually making myself open and available for work. I'd never even done that. I didn't even know that there was the green sort of triangle or corner that can actually say you're open for work. So a lot of it was actually making sure that I became much more visible. And one of the features on LinkedIn is you can see how many people have actually clicked on you and looked on you in the past. And for years, I was just going along at about, I don't know, say 3 or 4 a week or whatever. But it ended up my LinkedIn usage or viewing went up about 900%. Because basically, if you like, starting up of the LinkedIn web page actually meant people were looking at it more. So that's the first thing I learned about it. The second thing I learned about it, I actually used LinkedIn Sales Professional as opposed to Sales Navigator. So I paid for Sales Professional, which helped me identify more of the jobs and the people who were seeing me. So it wouldn't just be somebody from, you know, Encompass or somebody from you know, Refinitiv or whatever that was looking at me. I could see who it was. So those people actually were interested in me. So I regarded those as sales leads or people I could contact to see if I could link in with them and actually find out who the right people were that I need to talk to. And so they were sales leads. And so every single morning, I'd get on, I'd log on to my laptop and I would go and look and see who had looked at me, and I would try and connect with them or send them messages to actually generate interest and or interviews. And if you do it enough, it's building a pipeline. It's just like any other sales job. Yeah. You build a pipeline, you're not going to get everyone to come in and say yes, but you start getting opportunities. And at the end, before I got the job, I had a rolling pipeline of 7 or 8 opportunities, all of which potentially I would have been quite happy with. So it does take time. And so that's how I use LinkedIn.
So people are going to be looking at you now. They're going to be watching this video. They're going to be saying, some of them are going to be at that lowest point where they're going to be thinking, maybe I'm over the hill. Maybe no one wants me. Maybe I can't get a job. What 3 key things would you say to people right now watching this who are feeling that? And what 3 tips would you give them to enable them to kind of go, okay, I'm on it tomorrow? What would you say?
Well, the first thing, before I give you the tips, I completely understand what you said, and I've been there myself. During my 8 months, there were undoubtedly times when I felt low, when I felt I wasn't going to get there, when I considered potentially just sort of jacking it in and not bothering with the final job. Fortunately, I was in a financial position I could do that, but it wasn't ideal. It's not the way I wanted to do it. So I do understand that. So the first piece of advice I would actually give you is don't give up on yourself. You are a valuable product because you've been working for years for other companies and you've achieved your sales targets and you've achieved your CEO circle clubs or whatever they're called. You're a valuable asset, and all you've got to do is get into the right frame of mind, and you've got to basically treat yourself like the product that you are now selling. The second thing I would actually advise is do not be afraid to reach out and help and ask for help when you recognize, and you've got to be truthful with yourself, if you can't do something, if there's people who can do things better than you, who can help you achieve what you want, get them on board. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because basically sometimes you need it. During my sort of months that I was working with Gary, there were times when I was feeling a bit low. There was a couple of jobs I wanted, which I was rejected at. I got right to the final 2, but I didn't get the jobs. And what Gary did was he was able to sort of say, well, it doesn't matter, mate, get on with the next one. Because however good a salesman you are, you're not going to win them all. Nobody ever does.
Yeah.
So have faith in yourself and reach out for help if you need it, and understand when you need it. And then the third thing I would actually give, the third tip or clue, is nobody is going to help you if you don't believe in yourself. Nobody's going to actually give you a job unless you believe in yourself. And the fact is, if you have been successful in the past and you've been running sales teams or running your own book of business, you know what you've got to do and you know what you need to do to be successful, and just keep at it. You can't help COVID. You can't help the delays it's caused. You can't help Brexit. You can't help the fact there's no pubs or bars or places to go out and take someone for lunch, but you can help yourself. Change yourself into the product and sell yourself and have faith in yourself. So those are the 3 things I would say, and you'll do it. You'll get there in the end.
Brilliant. Well, Peter, as you know, I've known you for many years now, and I'm really, really personally proud of you. And let's not see each other for a while, okay?
Yeah, that's going to be quite easy, guys, seeing as we can't go for a beer or anything. But yeah, we've definitely got, once we're all allowed out again, we've definitely got lunch.
Well, thanks, Peter, and I wish you all the best in your career, and thank you so much. You've been an absolute soldier. So congratulations, and I'll see you soon. Take care, buddy.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.